I thought I'd help out the Streamlabs desktop community by helping them in Streamlabs on a lot of common issues that I see throughout the Reddit post and how I can help it instead of going into each and every single post and seeing very similar questions with very similar solutions. Most people I've noticed that are in this Reddit post are having a lot of problems actually with setting up their stream and noticing that their stream is disconnecting, that they're getting laggy, skipped frames, dropped frames, and their stream might even be blurry. And the biggest solution to that is going to be actually just looking straight at your bit rate. So the first thing you got to do though, before looking at your bit rate and what resolution that you want to do, is actually going to be doing a speed test on your internet. Most people will already know this going in, is that an Ethernet cable and having that wired connection is going to be more stable and actually tell your internet to prioritize that device over anything that will be Wi-Fi. So when streaming, it's very important that you try to have a wired connection if possible. In order to stream is to know our internet. I'll have a link down in the description below where you can test your internet, and the one that I find to be the best trustworthy and what you can do. Now, what I like to do here is go to this website. It should have everything already automatic, like what tower it's bouncing off of. You can change that server if you would like, but I just kind of leave it and let the computer kind of decide where it should be. And you'll see a screen very similar to this. Now what you can do is just simply hit go, and you'll see that it will go through the entire process. You can see your ping. Right now it's going to calculate the download speed average, and then it will go into the upload speed average. And we're going to be specifically looking at only the upload speed. The reason for this is because you're uploading content, so that means it's going to be drawing out all the upload speed in order to boost that content to the server and get it encoded through Twitch or YouTube or what have you. And so the download speed is completely irrelevant in the case of uploading content. Now of course, for watching Netflix and playing video games, your download speed is very viable, but not for uploading. So as you can see here, we have a 349 download with a 11.37 upload. Now the rule of thumb is 60%. So what I mean by that is we're gonna go and we're gonna pull out our handy dandy calculator. So we're gonna, for me, I'm on Windows 11, so I'm just gonna go with a calculator. For Mac users, I don't know how you pull out your calculator, but I'm sure it's not too difficult. And what you're going to want to do is type in whatever your upload speed is. So for mine, even though it's 11.37, I'm just going to round it down to 11. So I'd always suggest rounding down. Even if you are closer to the next number, just round it down, give yourself that buffer. With that 11, then we are going to multiply it by 0.6, because that would be 60%. And for us, it's going to come out to 6.6, as we can see here. Now this is where it's going to be kind of up to you and where you want to lead that buffer. Meaning, for me, I would normally like to round this up to 7,000 for my bit rate then, because 6.6 is going to be a representation of 6,600 that we have to set for our bit rate. I don't like to have weird numbers like that, so I like to round up or down to the nearest thousands. In this case, I would normally like to round up, but for me personally, I have found that because I have a single PC setup and because I am gaming and streaming on that single PC, as well as having my phone connected to the Wi-Fi, I'm drawing a lot of internet, and again creating that buffer that I'm no longer having, even though I did do a 60% rule. So I'm actually going to round down and just get a 6,000 bit rate. Now that works perfect for 1080p 60 FPS, which is going to answer a lot of people's questions. And again, your hardware and what you're streaming with has a lot to do with it too. The biggest factor is going to be, of course, your upload speed, as we've seen here. When we get back to Streamlabs here, what we can do now with that information is some of this might all be tucked away. But what we can do is, of course, pull these all out, right? Like there's the chat. Then we're going to see all the taskbar on the side. Very easy to navigate through all of this. It just tells you what it is, right? But what you can do here is go into settings, and we're gonna work our way all the way through this, that way you know. So we got the general, we got the multi-streaming if you're an ultra user, we got the streams, whatever you want to connect to, and then we have the most important factors right here, which is going to be your output. Now for the output, I would always recommend changing the output mode to advanced. I can't currently change any of these because I'm actually recording right now, but I would always recommend changing it to advanced. That way you have more options on what you can do controlling more of the stream. I just keep it on audio track 1. You can change this to whatever you would like. If you're trying to get really technical with it, you can change it to whatever you need. For the encoder, I would always recommend running your GPU. Even me gaming and streaming on a single PC setup, I have a Ryzen 5 5600X and I use an AMD 6600 XT graphics card, and even with me doing everything that's GPU based, I still encode with my AMD graphics card. And the only time I would ever suggest using your CPU, which would be the X264, would be if you some way have upgraded your CPU versus your GPU, which you shouldn't be doing that either. Your GPU should always be one of the first components that you upgrade within your computer before anything else. Other option is, of course, if you have a NVIDIA card, you're going to have like NVAC new, and that would be the encoder that you would use if you had a NVIDIA card. I would always recommend the GPU. I would only use X264 on a rare circumstance that you basically have to. Your GPU will always do better in basically every scenario that I can think of. Now, what I also like to do here is have the enforced streaming service encoder settings. What this will do is just make sure that it's always dedicated to your GPU or always dedicated to whatever you want it to be, and I always make sure that those settings that I want are enforced, and that way nothing's getting changed throughout the recording or the stream. I do not rescale my output. Obviously, some people will have this changed, and this is where things can get a little different for other people if you are downscaling or whatever you have. I would never suggest upscaling, but I would suggest downscaling based off of what your internet rate is, resolution you want to do, and bit rate and stuff like that that you can handle. I don't rescale anything because I play in 1080p and I stream in 1080p. For the rate control, I would definitely go with CBR. YouTube recommends it and Twitch recommends it. I would not use anything else. What that is a constant bit rate. So what your encoder tries to do is make sure that the bit rate that you have set stays as close to that number as physically possible. Now, something with Streamlabs that I have noticed is that even though you set whatever for your bit rate, it usually hovers about 500 higher. Not always, and that's completely okay. I think that's just the encoder being able to keep up with that. And that's why for me 7,000 bitrate doesn't work, because it's actually bumping up to 7,500, which is a lot. So for me, going down to 6,000, I'm usually averaging about a 6,500 bitrate, but 6,000 is still perfect. As you can see here, I have the 6,000 bitrate, and if you have a higher upload speed and your hardware can handle it, by all means turn it up. More is not always better though, because it has to be proportional to what your resolution is. So even though you can have a 10,000 bit rate, for example, but you're only outputting a resolution of 720p, it's not going to look as good as what people might think it does. The other thing to consider too is what Twitch and YouTube has to offer. They both have official pages where you can go and look at what they recommend for your resolution and your FPS and what those bit rates should be. Twitch only recommends a max of 6,000 bit rate even at 1080p 60 FPS. With that being said, YouTube actually will encourage a higher bitrate if your encoder and your internet can handle it. But for me, my internet can clearly not handle it, and my hardware can't handle it anything over the 7,000. Now, they both recommend that you have a keyframe interval of 2, and that your max B frames down here is 2 as well. I set the preset to quality and I set the profile to high. They normally default to like balanced and baseline, but I like to set it up a little higher. Whether there's a big difference involved, I don't really know. Again, most of your problems are going to stem from your bitrate. And so preset and profile, I always set them to the max. My hardware can handle it. If you are having issues and you're really bumping things down with your resolution and your bitrate, that could be something you could go back and check. Going into the advanced tab, what you're going to see is process priority. Now, I currently have mine to normal. The reason for this is, again, I have a single PC setup. So I want to make sure that when I'm gaming and streaming simultaneously, that I actually have my game be the priority, and this is the side, but it still needs to maintain. That's why it's normal. If you are running a dual PC setup, or you're running like your laptop with a console, I would definitely recommend putting this at above normal or even high. When you do this, it tells your computer or your laptop that we got to make sure this program is running at the best it possibly can, using all the hardware it possibly can. So it's going to wear on your computer in the sense of running other programs while having it set to a higher preset will be more difficult, but it will also make your streaming recordings better if that's all it's supposed to be doing. So if you have a dual PC setup or the laptop, then its only job is to perform the stream or the recording, and you're gaming on a completely different device, I would always highly suggest setting it as high as that piece of hardware can handle. This will, of course, just make your stream that much better. For the color format, don't change it. For the color space, I would recommend setting this at 709. 601 is fine, 709 is better. There's always been a debate for the color range of should it be limited or should it be full. I noticed for me, I've seen a lot of problems with it being full, so I actually put it to limited, and seeing that my webcam and gameplay looked a lot better within the stream despite my bitrate. So I recommend setting it to limited, but if you're somebody that for whatever reason, your hardware, your internet, whatever it could be, the game you're playing, or if you're just doing a podcast, it might come in better with full, and that's something that you're gonna have to play around with between the two. It's not difficult to do, right? Just take 10 minutes, do what you would normally do on a stream, put it on limited, do it on full. Whatever one looks better or runs better, pick that one. Not super difficult. For the rest of this stuff, I don't touch any of this. I hope this helps anybody and everybody that has laggy, skipped frames, dropped frames. And I also have links in the description below going right to where you can do your internet test, and also what Twitch recommends for their resolutions and all their presets for both 720p 30 fps all the way up to 1080p 60 fps. And I'll also have the link in the description for YouTube. Any other platform I don't know about and I don't stream to, I know there's Facebook and Kick and all those. And if you guys are more interested, I can do the research to find out what they recommend on those platforms. I just know that YouTube and Twitch are the big ones that a lot of people will stream to.